Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy, Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Today, we're talking some preseason winners. We have the final week of preseason wrap up this weekend, so I've got 15 players that are winners to me from this week's performance. You know, some of the whole preseason will also be brought into this as well. Tomorrow we'll do losers, so make sure you tune into tomorrow's episode for that. But today we've got winners. So go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And good morning to everyone in the chat. Nick, Donald, Dustin, Bach, Literature, Scott, Mark, Alex, welcome in. Sorry you missed me. Well, I missed you guys on Friday, really. We missed each other. We didn't have an episode Friday. We had some issues on our streaming service. But now we're back. We're good. Everything's here. We're ready to talk football, and it is good stuff. So thanks for kind of sticking with me over the weekend and returning today. Let's get some football going. We're going to start today's show off. I know we said that we're doing preseason winners, but we do have some big NFL news stories, so I'm just going to rapid fire these bad boys before we get into the winners. First, since we didn't have Friday's episode, on Thursday, Jahan Dodson was traded to the Eagles. Not much to take away here. We've seen time and time again, the Eagles wide receiver 3 doesn't really amount to much. It's pretty consolidated between A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And now they've got Saquon Barkley to worry about too, Dallas Goedert. Jahan Dodson's going to get nothing, essentially, in this offense without an injury. The big win is for the Commanders, really, as the Commanders now will have some, or at least some players on the Commanders. Terry McLaurin's probably going to get fed a little bit more. We now see De'Ami Brown probably having a more established role in the offense. Luke McCaffrey could potentially find himself on the field more often than not. And then, of course, Zach Ertz, maybe Ben Sinnott. And, of course, Austin Eckler as well, catching some more passes. But it's not like Jahan Dodson did too much in Washington last year. And they didn't really get much in return for him either, at least in terms of what they've spent on him. So, it is what it is. It seems that they just wanted to move on from him. We can still speculate that maybe this has to do with Brandon Ayuk. Maybe the Commanders are clearing room to be able to bring Brandon Ayuk in via a trade. But then also, I ask myself, well, all of the reports have said that the 49ers do want a player back. So I would assume if Jahan Dodson or Brandon Ayuk was to be traded for the Commanders or to the Commanders, I would have assumed that Jahan Dodson may have been a part of that. So I don't know. I still haven't decided where I fall on that part of this trade scenario with Jahan Dodson going to the Eagles and Brandon Ayuk potentially coming to the Commanders. For now, like I've said time and time again, all offseason, until something happens, Brandon Ayuk is a 49er. I don't give a shit what reports come out. I don't care. I do not care. Brandon Ayuk's a 49er until further notice. I'm not wasting any energy on it. So that's the Jahan Dodson Eagles trade. Not much excitement for Jahan Dodson. In fact, I am very sad that I even have any exposure to Jahan Dodson in best ball now. I was hoping maybe he could have a little bit of a revival in Washington with Jaden Daniels, but now, I don't even know. I don't even know how you see the field really in Philly. Another big story that came out this morning is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is officially landing on the PUP list, so he will be missing the first 4 weeks of the season at minimum. Hopefully it's not that long. We have seen that he's a little bit ahead of schedule in his return, looks all right in some of the videos that we've seen. So hopefully he can come back like week 5, week 6 and not be out too long. This really just means congratulations to everyone that got Jerome Ford over the offseason while it was uncertain. As we talked about here time and time again, Jerome Ford is an incredible value all offseason, probably still is, because even when Nick Chubb comes back, guys, even when Nick Chubb comes back, he's not going to get a Nick Chubb workload. The Browns are fine having a committee. And Jerome Ford showed us enough last year, still finished as a top 24 running back with only a 50% opportunity share. He will be fine, Jerome Ford, when Nick Chubb returns, because they're not going to give Nick Chubb 70+% of opportunities right when he returns. There's no damn way. In fact, probably not at all. He's 28 years old coming off another knee injury. Like, they're going to give him like 50%, it may be 60 towards the end of the year, but it's going to be a committee between Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford. And I hate to say it, but that is the truth. So get Jerome Ford while you still can. He's going to be incredible the first few weeks of the season. And even when Nick Chubb returns, he's still going to be fine. And also, I'll say Nick Chubb, I think that he'll be fine when he returns. I don't think he'll get a ton of volume, but he is just another animal. Like, he is a totally different beast. If he's, going to miss the first few weeks, that means he'll probably be more than likely healthy-ish when he returns. And I still think that he could be fine. In fact, still probably good with minimal opportunity. Like, he's Nick Chubb. This is Nick Chubb on a very run-heavy Browns offense. They finished 4th in run plays per game last year. Like, there's a ton of volume to go around, even if it is split. So I like Jerome Ford. I like Nick Chubb even more now that it's official. He's going to take a little bit of a hit. Nick Chubb was being drafted before Jerome Ford for no reason, really. Like, now that's going to change, and now you can get Nick Chubb a little bit cheaper. Another big story just happened within the hour, I believe. Juju Smith-Schuster is expected to sign with the Kansas City Chiefs after being released by the Patriots within the last few weeks. The only takeaway I have for Juju Smith-Schuster going to Kansas City is rest in peace, Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. I think that this means that at least one of them will not be on the roster, maybe both. But I'm not going to get excited about Juju Smith-Schuster. We saw him on Kansas City already. He really didn't do enough. He might be a DFS play here and there. He might be okay getting in best ball. But this Chiefs offense is still going to run through Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, and now Xavier Worthy. So I'm not rushing to the streets to get Juju Smith-Schuster on my fantasy team, to be completely honest with you. I think this is more of an indictment on Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. And lastly, Jacoby Brissett. He picked up a shoulder injury in yesterday's preseason game. Surprisingly, this whole preseason wasn't too bad. We had the Marquise Brown injury, and now we get the Jacoby Brissett injury. It's been a lot worse in years past, so, I'll just give a slight clap that we didn't get too much going in this one. But Jacoby Brissett suffered a shoulder injury. The full details are not out yet. We still have exactly 2 weeks, essentially, until like football kicks off, a little under 2 weeks for the Patriots game, since it's a Sunday and we're at Monday, but 2 weeks. So, there is time if this is a minor shoulder injury for him to heal and still go out there to be the week 1 meat shield in front of Drake Maye. But we all know Drake Maye is going to start for this New England Patriots team sooner rather than later. And this shoulder injury is only going to make that even more likely, especially with Gerard Mayo coming out this morning, and saying that Drake Maye has been outplaying Jacoby Brissett in the preseason, which is true. It's not even false to say such a thing. Like, that is actually true. And Drake Maye yesterday looked really good. He really did. So that is our first preseason winner from week 3, Drake Maye. Not just because of the injury, but because he's looked good all preseason. And yeah, that's it, right? Like yesterday in this week's preseason game, he finished 13-20, had himself a passing touchdown, had 3 carries for 17 yards, and looked really, really good. In fact, I like this play a lot because it just kind of demonstrates that this dude is a football player. You know what I mean? Like, Drake Maye is a certified football player. Check this clip out.
City backside, City so. There goes the shoot, kick it off, no big deal. Let's just go ahead and throw this ball.
The big dog still completes the pass. So shout out him for keeping the play going despite losing his shoe. That's never fun. You never want to lose your shoe. But he did, and he didn't give up on the play. Kind of gets it out to his running back there. Just nice heads-up play. And, that's kind of been the story all preseason. He came out in the first preseason week and didn't look great, but was pulled because of the offensive line. We talked about it. I wasn't really too worried about his poor performance. In fact, I even named him a winner in week 1 after week 1, despite only completing like 3 out of 4 of his passes for like 19 yards. He looked fine, but that offensive line is just terrible. So it's gotten better every single week. Last week in particular, he looked better than Jacoby Brissett. They both played a decent amount of snaps. This week, of course, he's going to look better than Jacoby Brissett, given he got injured, but just he looks good. Drake Maye looks good, okay? So get him while you still can, guys. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, especially now that he's probably going to be starting week 1. At least that's what it's kind of going towards. So, you've got to maybe bite the bullet, but it's looking like he's going to pan out. I still believe all the rookie quarterbacks from the first round this year are going to pan out. They got the right landing spot. I don't know how else to put it. I really don't. It's good stuff coming from these guys. I'm excited to see their rookie year. So Drake Maye, the first preseason winner. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this. There are no true starters. No true starters on this list. I wanted to keep it a little bit deeper today just because, Trevor Lawrence, Evan Ingram, Bryce Young, Tony Pollard. Like, great. You guys, you showed up in this week's preseason game. You did exactly what you should do as a starter. But your value's not really changing. You're not really like a winner. You know what I mean? So we're going with some of these deeper players that, we're maybe fighting for a roster spot or some good sleepers for our fantasy squad. So as the chat says, smash that like button. Go ahead and do that. Gotta smash that like button before we get going. If you were liking the video so far, hit that like button and also subscribe while you're at it. Now, the second winner I've got for you guys is going to be good old Adonai Mitchell. Adonai Mitchell caught only 2 passes, only got 18 yards, but one of those was a touchdown, and that touchdown was thrown by Anthony Richardson. To get a touchdown with the first team is exactly what you want to see from a player like Adonai Mitchell. We're unsure what his role in this offense is. Is he going to beat out Alec Pierce? Is he now working in the slot while Josh Downs is injured? What's it going to be? I still contend that he's going to replace Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce ran a ridiculous amount of routes last year and had no production, no targets. He's just not a target-earning wide receiver. He is not good, unfortunately. As athletic as Alec Pierce is, he is just not good. And so Adonai Mitchell has the athleticism of Alec Pierce and is actually pretty damn good. Has some good hands. Scored a touchdown from Anthony Richardson. It is trending towards him being a starting receiver on this team. It has taken a few weeks to get here throughout training camp. It's been always battling with Alec Pierce. He hasn't really showed up too much in this preseason, but this week he did, and it was with the first team. It was a touchdown catch from Anthony Richardson. I think that is fantastic news for Adonai Mitchell, and I would say go ahead and try to get him as well. He's not crazy expensive, and he has some insane athleticism. I mean, after the combine, people were talking about him being a potential first-round pick. He ends up still getting the second-round draft capital, and he got a decent landing spot. I mean, say what you want about Anthony Richardson. He still has a cannon for an arm that, will support a player like Adonai Mitchell. So I recommend getting him, at least in Dynasty. Maybe less so in redraft, to be honest, but in Dynasty, I don't see why not. And even in redraft, it's not like his value is too much. So go ahead, get Adonai Mitchell. Another big winner is Velus Jones. Or Velus? Velus Jones. He's just this guy. He's on Chicago, has been for a couple years, hasn't been able to do anything at all. But one thing he has is speed. Velus Jones is fast. And what we know from Hard Knocks is they've been trying to use him creatively, whether it be special teams or in the backfield as a runner. Well, this preseason game, he was truly used as a running back. He's still listed as a wide receiver on the Bears depth chart, but he took 13 carries for 111 yards and a touchdown, and also found himself having 2 receptions. This is interesting as there's been a lot of reports that the Bears are looking at moving on from Khalil Herbert, and we just are not seeing a damn thing from Roschon Johnson. To have a running back, quotes around it, right? 6 foot, 204 pounds, 4.31 40-yard dash, 97th percentile speed score. That's pretty good stuff. That's just an explosive change of pace back that can come in every once in a while if they want to use him in that regard. So I would just say he's a winner because he wasn't really, a lock for the roster as a wide receiver. I mean, he probably was because he's the fastest receiver on the team, but he never really did anything. He hasn't done a damn thing in his 2 years. He had 20 receiving yards last year and 100 the year before that with 1 touchdown. He's now 27 years old. But to see him now being used as a running back, I think it's interesting. We've seen this a few times, wide receivers turning to running back, and he looked damn good. 13 carries for 111 yards and a touchdown on top of 2 receptions. He's probably going to be a backup, and we're not even sure if he's going to earn a running back spot, if he's still going to be listed as a wide receiver. But it's just encouraging to me to see this type of usage and production from a guy who isn't a running back, but now playing as a running back. If anything happened, if Khalil Herbert's cut, then Velus Jones is probably going to end up in that running back room at some point, whether it be a DeAndre Swift injury or just as a third down guy, because he has that explosiveness that you want from your backups. So anyway, interesting. Definitely someone to keep our eye on. Next, we have Carson Steel. Check out this run. It was just beautiful. Carson Steel is an angry runner, to say the least. He looks like a stud out there. Go ahead and pull it up. Share my screen here. Check this out. Hits the hole, breaks the tackle, hits the stiff arm, keeps going. Gets wrapped up, but keeps going and scores. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And he has the long hair. It's awesome. It's awesome. Carson Steel looks like a stud. And it's really good news because none of the other Chiefs running backs are really looking that good. It's Isaiah Pacheco, first and foremost, for sure. And then for the past few weeks, some people have been saying Deneric Prince. And now it's Carson Steel. And that's kind of the deal. Here on Wake and Take, we're not fans of trying to predict who backup running backs are. Why are we doing that? Who cares? Especially in muddy backfields like that. Like, if anything happens to Pacheco, it's probably going to end up being a little bit of a group deployment, right? Like, it's not going to just be Carson Steel or just Deneric Prince. And that's the value of Isaiah Pacheco, the fact that he's a bell cow. So I don't ever really care about these backup running backs until one truly establishes themselves. There's no point to. Why try to predict these things? We'll talk about this a little later in the show. I've got another big winner, but it's just all offseason, no one drafts Deneric Prince. As one good preseason game starts to show up in the training camp, and now it's everyone's favorite 18th round underdog pick. We're too short-sighted, guys. We're just too short-sighted. Why do that? It doesn't matter. Because look what happens the next two preseason games. Carson Steele's the guy. And now week one, it's still going to be Isaiah Pacheco getting 80% of the opportunities. So we got to learn how to exercise patience here. We really do. Because the big winner to me this preseason, the guy that I think is going to end up being the RB2 is now Carson Steel. He's looked better. He looks awesome. He looks awesome. He looks awesome. And Deneric Prince had the chance last year and only made it to the practice squad, right? So Carson Steel looking to be a steal. Finishes with 4 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown I showed. Deneric Prince, by the way, 3 carries for -1 yards. What do you do? What do you do? Seriously, what do you do? Nothing. And fun fact, guys, in case you're wondering, Louis Rees-Sammet did get some more action. 4 carries. 21 yards. So just another thing to keep your eye on in this Chiefs backfield. What does happen with LRZ? I really hope he makes the 53-man because I think he'll be a special teams producer. I'm still not expecting much for him in terms of the actual offense. But yeah, Carson Steel looking good. This is now 2 straight preseason games where he's outperformed Deneric Prince and looking to be the next backup here, especially with what we're hearing from camp. But I do want to say it's Isaiah Pacheco. Don't pay up for Carson Steel or Deneric Prince, right? Because again, if Isaiah Pacheco goes down, Carson Steel is not going to be a bell cow. It's going to be him, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Deneric Prince, and Keontae Ingram. Hell, they might even sign someone from free agency. You know what I mean? So just don't build your roster around backup running backs is all I'm trying to say, I guess. Next up, speaking of backup running backs, Jaylen Wright. Again, this is a player who I don't think is actually a backup running back. I just think that this is a committee in Miami. Sure, Jaylen Wright is going to get the lowest share, but he's so explosive that it doesn't matter. He finishes this preseason game 7 carries for 36 yards and 4 receptions for 41 yards and also looked really good as a pass blocker. Jaylen Wright is doing everything he can to make sure he gets snaps when the season comes around, and I think he will. I think that this will be a backfield where it's, 40% Achane, 40% Mostert, 20% Jaylen Wright, and that's totally fine. And then again, if an injury happens to either one of them, Jaylen Wright's going to get more opportunity. If an injury happens to both of them, we're talking about a bell cow. And the beauty with Jaylen Wright is the fact that he's 6 foot and 210 pounds. He has the size and the speed of a true, NFL running back. Whereas Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, they're electric. Don't get me wrong, but they are undersized. They are injury prone. So Jaylen Wright, a very incredible player to be drafting right now in best ball, in redraft, in dynasty especially, because in 2025, Jaylen Wright's going to be the RB2 because Raheem Mostert's on his way out. So Jaylen Wright, winning yet again in these preseason games. He's just looked so damn good. Next, we'll go ahead and go with Jacob Cowing. As we said last week, I accidentally left him out. I put him on the show sheet, but just didn't mention him at all. Just got through the show too quickly, skipped over him. Jacob Cowing finishes this week with 3 receptions for 39 yards and scores himself another touchdown from Joshua Dobbs. Looking good. This is a guy who has done everything in his opportunity with Ricky Pearsall out to earn himself not only a roster spot, but the potential to be on the field early for this 49ers team. My prediction for Jacob Cowing is that he probably takes over for Jawan Jennings. I don't think he's like the Brandon Ayuk replacement. Don't get me wrong, but he's a very shifty receiver who would probably do really well in the slot like Jawan Jennings does, or even out wide. It doesn't really matter. He's been a mega producer at college. This was one of my favorite receivers that I watched at the Senior Bowl. Granted, there were a lot of receivers that I liked at the Senior Bowl, but he was one of the ones that I made note of. On top of his college production, he's just good. He's just plain good at football. He's a really smooth route runner, and he's got great hands and really good athleticism as well. So I like Jacob Cowing a lot on this 49ers offense. And while, Ricky Pearsall continues to find himself off the field with injury, Jacob Cowing continues to soak up opportunity and do so well with it. So Jacob Cowing winning yet again. And I would honestly argue the biggest winner on the 49ers is Isaac Gendo. As we know, he suffered a hamstring injury just a few weeks ago. And I remember it being reported that it was serious. Like they had no timeline on it, that it was probably going to linger and all this stuff. So I just started fading Gendo, to be honest. I didn't think that he was really going to be able to play this year with a serious hamstring injury as a rookie. That's always tough to overcome, but he's done it. He's done it. Isaac Gendo played this weekend. 11 carries for 32 yards. It's not the best, but given it's his first NFL action coming off a hamstring injury, that's nothing to scoff at. So again, this is why I've said, don't draft Jordan Mason. Like, what the hell? Why do you want Jordan Mason on your team? What are you doing? What are you doing? There is no reason to draft Jordan Mason. They just drafted 2 running backs. Or not drafted. They drafted 1 running back and got Cody Schrader as an undrafted running back. Like, why we were going after Jordan Mason? Elijah Mitchell was still there too. It isn't like if Christian McCaffrey got hurt that Jordan Mason is going to get all of Christian McCaffrey's usage. No. So why do we do this every year? We play 4D chess for a backup running back? And then all of a sudden, week 3 in the preseason, the rookie with explosive speed that's been out with a hamstring injury miraculously recovers and looks decent enough. That's why you just don't do it. It doesn't matter. Why get Jordan Mason? Are you serious? Like, what's that for? What's that for? Who is that for? Who is that for? There are so many backup running backs in this league. There are so many. And the 49ers have 4 damn good ones. So why? I don't know. Didn't get it. And now you have a reason to just not get Jordan Mason. There's no point. You can get Isaac Gendo in Dynasty if you want an upside swing. You can get Cody Schrader in Dynasty if you want an upside swing. In redraft, just don't touch any of them. Maybe spend some fab after one establishes themselves. But I would be shocked if Christian McCaffrey got hurt and the next week Jordan Mason gets 60% of the opportunities or more. That would be wild. I would never guess that in a million years. And my mind would just be completely blown. And so I just, again, say, don't get these backup running backs. Like, there's just no point, Get the ones that you know. Like, don't try to guess, right? That's the thing, is we're getting excited trying to guess. Things are laying up for someone. Don't do it. Don't do it. Get the ones you know are backups if you're going to do it. Dylan Lobb, Trey Benson, Jaylen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd, Blake Corum, the actual handcuffs, like the ones that will get volume if an injury happens, not the ones that might be good. Maybe, maybe this week they're good, the next week they're bad. Like, come on. It's easy stuff, guys. It's easy stuff to just get the good backup running back on a good team. It's not that hard. The next winner, Isaac Gendo, huge winner. So glad to see him out there. The next one is Frank Gore Jr. Frank Gore Jr., 18 carries, 101 yards and a touchdown. Now, this is nothing to scoff at, but also nothing to get too excited about. Yes, he's a preseason winner. I think that this performance probably locks him into the roster or at the practice squad at the very least. And that's all that matters really for a player like Frank Gore Jr., undrafted, not much athleticism, but got himself on a good landing spot. It's going to take an injury for anything to happen with him. In fact, it might even take 2, just because he's more of a plotter, right? Like, Ray Davis, in his defense, actually has some speed. He can catch passes. He's a little bit explosive. James Cook obviously has that as well. So that's going to be the backfield. James Cook, Ray Davis. Frank Gore Jr. will come in if anything happens to Ray Davis, would probably come in if anything happens to James Cook as well. But I don't think he's ever really going to see a ton of volume. But it's just encouraging to see him do decent enough in this preseason game, handle that much volume. And yeah, score a touchdown, get 100 yards. Nothing to scoff at all. But, you know, he's going to be like the RB3 at best, which isn't bad, but not great either. Another running back 3 that won this weekend is Cordo Patterson. Cordo Patterson scored himself a nice little touchdown. Just cool to see, really. You know, that Arthur Smith is going to give us a ton of headaches this year, and it's probably going to revolve around this man. Why can't I point at him? Cordo Patterson. He's just, you know, it's just Cordo Patterson. He's going to score touchdowns here and there. You know what I mean? And that's going to be a problem for Najee Harris, for Jaylen Warren, as much as I hate to say it. It's not going to be a big problem. Like we kind of saw last year in Atlanta, Cordero was rarely used. He did have some injuries and stuff like that. But still, there will be times where Cordero is, you know, the red zone running back, the goal line running back, vulturing these touchdowns. Because, I mean, that's what he's good at. I mean, like, he's got the size, and he hits holes really, really well, just because he's a veteran. He's been there, done that. And, yeah, he's going to be leaned on here and there, and it's going to be an issue. If you have special team scoring leagues, I actually do recommend getting some Cordo Patterson on your roster. It looks like he's going to be the kick returner, which could be pretty fun. Another RB3. This is my RB3 portion of the show. Myles Gaskin has probably established himself to be the RB3 on this Vikings team. Why is it important? Well, Aaron Jones is old as hell, and Ty Chandler's not that good. Myles Gaskin last year in Miami had a few times where he was, you know, utilized, and he's explosive. Myles Gaskin is explosive. He finishes this preseason game with 13 carries for 61 yards and also finds himself having 2 receptions for a few yards as well. Again, this is an injury type of running back, but given the running backs ahead of him, there's, you know, like it's possible. You know, it's possible. Aaron Jones, again, old as shit. And then Ty Chandler didn't really show us too much last year. Also has some of his size and injury concerns himself. If anything happens to either of those two, I can see Myles Gaskin, you know, just catching passes, right? I mean, like with TJ Hawkinson out for a little bit, with Sam Darnold being the quarterback, like I could see them leaning on the running back pass catchers. And Myles Gaskin's one of the better ones. So he's a winner from this preseason game as well. Another running back 3. Kenny McIntosh. In this game, only 1 carry, but that carry he takes for a 56-yard rushing touchdown. And over the preseason has clearly been the best Seahawks running back, really, because obviously Kenneth Walker's not playing. But Zach Charbonnet didn't look good in week 1 preseason. The only time he played, he had 2 carries and then no receptions. Kenny McIntosh over the whole preseason, 17 carries, 142 yards and a touchdown, as well as 5 receptions for 27 yards. Why am I bringing him up? Well, Zach Charbonnet, again, has not looked good in the preseason, has barely had any action, with the rest of the starters actually being worked in. I mean, DK Metcalf scored a touchdown this week. Geno Smith has been out there. Jackson Smith-Njigba's been out there. No Charbonnet. Kenny McIntosh is the RB3 on the Seahawks team, but I'll say this. Last year, I had the privilege to go to the UGA Pro Day with Cody Carpentier. Since I live here in Georgia, I met him up in Athens and went to that Pro Day. And Kenny McIntosh doesn't have a lot of athleticism, to be completely honest with you. You can go to PlayerProfiler.com. His athletic profile is not great. It's not. But he just looked better than that. He was really, really smooth, especially out of the backfield as a pass catcher. And that's what we saw in UGA as well. He's a pretty damn good pass-catching running back. And so, you know, there is an opportunity here, regardless of injury even, for him to kind of be a pass-catching running back on this offense, right? Like Kenneth Walker, not the greatest pass catcher in the world, but can definitely do it, especially with running back screens. Zach Charbonnet, same thing. I know people say he's an all-purpose back. He's really not. Like Zach Charbonnet is just the epitome of fine. He really is. He's fine. And Kenny McIntosh is fine as well, but he's looked damn good this preseason, averaging 8 yards a carry, 5 yards a reception. Pretty damn good to me. Kenny McIntosh, someone to keep our eye on in some of these deeper leagues. Man, I got a lot. I'm just gonna pile in all these running backs. Dante Miller. The Dante Miller hype train continues. As, of course, we know that the injury happened to Tyrone Tracy, kind of sidelining him for a bit. Dante Miller also picked up an injury and missed week 2 of the preseason, a hamstring injury. So what's he do? He comes back from the hamstring injury, which is always positive. Again, hamstring injuries early in the season are pains, but to see players come back from them and play well, that's exactly what you want to see. Dante Miller, in his first game back from the hamstring injury, 14 carries for 45 yards. Not the best, but not the worst. He demonstrated his speed. He showcased some of his explosiveness. And again, every year there seems to be an undrafted free agent rookie running back that makes some noise. It's looking like Dante Miller, to be completely honest with you. I don't really have a ton of faith in Devin Singletary at all. I know he's been like a producer throughout his career, but I just don't really have that much faith in him in New York, especially with that offensive line and Daniel Jones. Like, I don't know. I feel like either an injury or he's just not going to be that good, and they're going to look for some explosiveness. And Dante Miller's going to bring that. Again, he runs a 4.27. He's fast as hell, and he's looking damn good. And with Tyrone Tracy sidelined, he could end up being the RB2 here, which would just be incredible. And Kimani Vidal. Kimani Vidal is the last winner in the running back room because he is the RB3. And again, the RB3 is important in this because there are a ton of Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are injury prone. And so Kimani Vidal did not play week 1 of preseason. In fact, has not made really any noise in training camp due to minor injuries kind of sidelining him here and there, right? But he looked really good last week, and this week they didn't play him at all. They benched him, which to me signifies he's locked himself into the roster, will be the RB3. And again, that's really good news because that's really the RB1 on this team. There's no way in hell Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins last the whole season. I hate to say it, but there's just no way in hell. Just no way. And so there will be games, and I assume towards the end of the year, where Kimani Vidal is a true bell cow on this offense, and we already know it's going to be run heavy. We already know he can do it. Led college football in rushing yards last year, can truly handle the rock, and a good running back with good size, good speed, everything you want, can handle the load. So Kimani Vidal, I cannot stress this enough. Get him. Nothing has changed. I know that there wasn't as much hype as we wanted for him, but that doesn't matter. Everything is exactly the same. Every reason we were drafting him after rookie drafts, moving him into the second round even, is exactly how things are now. We were expecting J.K. Dobbins to get hurt at some point. We were expecting Gus Edwards to get hurt or just not be explosive. And we were expecting Kimani Vidal to take over by the second half of the season. Everything is still lining up for that to be on the menu. And our last winner, I've got one more. Cam Akers. Just looking good all preseason. I think he's locked himself in as the Texans' RB2 ahead of Dameon Pierce, ahead of Jawar Jordan, behind Joe Mixon, of course. But Joe Mixon, given his age and injury history, having the handcuff in Cam Akers seems to be good. And he looks to have his explosiveness back. I'm not going to lie. The guy has looked damn good. 24 carries for 112 yards over the preseason and 8 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown, averaging 4.7 yards per carry and 7.6 yards per catch. And he's just looking good. He's looking explosive. He just is. And here's a fun little clip. Just fun. I'm sure everyone's been seeing this go around. It's fun. Fun stuff. The Cam Akers. Cool. He's just spinning in it. It's incredible. It's just incredible. Spin after spin after spin after spin after spin. Let's go, Cam Akers. Cool. But yeah, he looks good. Like, genuinely. I know that there were a lot of doctors joking. Like, it seemed like a joke, right? That he tore his other Achilles. Now they're both restructured. And generally, your restructured Achilles is stronger than your original Achilles. Just something in the surgery. So given he's torn them both, doctors were joking that, maybe he'll be healthy again. Because a lot of times what happens with your Achilles injury is you tear your other Achilles because you're overcompensating. With them both being structurally repaired, you're not really doing that. So he's back to full strength. It really looks like he's looked at, like every single game this preseason he has played in, he's had a decent amount of volume and he's looked explosive. Like, he looks like the Cam Akers of old. Maybe not quite the Cam Akers of old, actually, but pretty damn close, like 90% Cam Akers, which is awesome. He was really, really good in LA. So I like this offensive course in Houston. If anything happens to Cam Akers, he'll probably end up being a stud, truly. And I just can't quit him. I have rose-colored glasses every time I talk about Cam Akers. I just love the guy. Since his little playoff run where he just looked like a true stud, it's awesome. And I'll even say this. This is something that's been in the back of my head. You guys maybe remember this in Los Angeles. He, laid the hit stick on that one Cardinals safety who had to be like carted off. I can't remember his name at this time, but he had to be carted away. And there was like, he injured him. He literally injured him. And it was really bad. And I could see like Cam Akers hadn't really been the same since, hadn't been running with that same aggressiveness. And I think, part of it could have been mentality as well on top of the health, just like scared to hurt people again. But we've seen him lay that boomstick a couple times this preseason as well. This is a really good running back. He had that second-round draft capital for a reason. He's on a really good Houston Texans team behind an older running back in Joe Mixon, who is an all-purpose running back, which generally means they are a bit more prone to injury. So just don't give up on Cam Akers quite yet. And guys, the last winner of today's show, Ryan Flournoy. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. This guy is just so damn good at football. I don't know what else to say. 3 receptions, 30 yards, and a touchdown in now back-to-back weeks. Moving up the depth chart as well, looking like he's a lock to make the Dallas Cowboys roster. Ryan Flournoy. How many more? I mean, this is, 2 weeks in a row. He scores this touchdown. We get excited. We get celebratory. We're still waiting for the dance party. We're still waiting. We're not throwing a dance party until it happens in the regular season. I'm not going to preseason victory lap too much, but it's just so encouraging. This is exactly what I wanted to see. I just wanted to see him show up in the preseason. I would have liked to maybe see him start to connect with Dak Prescott in training camp or something like that. But it doesn't matter. The whole reason we liked Ryan Flournoy was not just because he's damn good at football, extremely athletic, but also he got such a good landing spot in Dallas. Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, and Brandon Cooks are the wide receivers he has to beat out. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I know you guys have been listening to me all offseason. I know I get DMs all the time, and keep it up. I get DMs. I get tagged. I love it. Every time I find out that Ryan Flournoy scores from you guys, right? My phone gets blown up by everyone. He did it again. It's just awesome. It's a great feeling. So I appreciate you all for listening and heeding the Ryan Flournoy advice. I know it was easy to do given he was free, but seriously, like what a fucking swish this is, right? Like this is why we do this. Ryan Flournoy is why we play fantasy football. And I just feel very proud of myself for him to just trajectory has been up the entire offseason. And it's just been what I've seen. He was the first player at the Senior Bowl I laid my eyes on. I showed up late. I missed the American team practice. I can't remember which one was which, but the team that practiced first, I missed it. Ryan Flournoy was on the other team. I came out. It was the team with Xavier Legette. Came out there, had my camera. And I was like, where's Xavier Legette? Where's this guy? I'm excited to see Xavier Legette. He's going to be the next A.J. Brown. So I take a picture of who I think is Xavier Legette. It was fucking Ryan Flournoy. It was fucking Ryan Flournoy, right? Like, and he's, supposedly 20 pounds lighter, 3 inches shorter than Xavier Legette, but he just doesn't look that. I'm still confused by his 6'1", 200-pound measurables. Because when I am next to him, he doesn't, like, he looks taller. He looks stronger, bigger. He's a stud, guys. He just is. He's just a fucking stud. I don't know how else to put it. He's one of the most athletic wide receivers in the PlayerProfiler database. If you look at the relative athleticism score from MathBomb on Twitter, he's the 37th most athletic wide receiver since 1987. He has led his team in receiving every single step of the way in college. He dominated at the Senior Bowl. He dominated at the Combine. He got drafted, guys. I know that isn't the best thing to just say he got drafted. This is a player who not only came out late, but has just gone through the fucking ringer. He, in the COVID year, went to D2. Actually, I'm going to pull it back. I'm just going to pull it even back. Ryan Flournoy was a 0-star recruit out of high school. He was 5'8". He was a late-ass bloomer. Okay? Do you understand what that means? To be a 0-star recruit in high school and to then get drafted in the NFL? Do you understand what that means? That demonstrates insane character. This is a very hard-working player, and that can take you so far, especially when you go through a growth spurt in college and actually develop into a prototypical wide receiver at 6'1", 200 pounds, running a 4.4 40-yard dash, okay? So he goes to D2 in the COVID year. Yes, goes to D2, tears his ACL, and unfortunately has to go to JUCO, okay? Goes to JUCO and he tears his ACL again. It's painful. It is what it is. But he recovers, okay? He recovers. The next year, he leads his team in receiving, then gets to parlay that JUCO awesome season into a D1 transfer. I know it's Southeast Missouri, but still a D1 transfer. And what's he doing back-to-back years? Leads that team in receiving, gets all conference honors, and in fact, going into his final year of college, he made the Athletics College Football Freaks list. Do you understand what that means? He's an athletic freak. Okay? And then we saw it at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine. Okay? The Dallas Cowboys saw it. They said, yeah, sure, he's 24, 25 years old, whatever he is. But we want to draft him with our 6th-round pick. Yeah, sure. He maybe has a little bit of injury concerns and he comes out late. But still, he is so explosive. Like, I don't 4.0 GPA in college as well, I found out. His head coach called him the hardest worker he's ever had on a team ever. I mean, like, those are the things that, like, that mean something. They just mean something. You can have all the fucking talent in the world, but if you don't care, you're not going to play well. You're just not. And that's what we see from Alec Pierce, for example. That dude is so damn athletic, but he can't catch the ball, okay? Ryan Flournoy, guys, athletic, hard worker, great landing spot. I mean, like, these stars are aligning perfectly for this player, and I'm just so proud of myself, really. Like, this was my first Senior Bowl, and to pull Ryan Flournoy out of the bag, I mean, come on. That's pretty exciting. So I'm excited to see how the rest of the season goes. I understand that this is only preseason, and I understand this was kind of a big victory lap, but I'm saving the true victory lap for the regular season touchdown, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it's going to happen earlier than you think. It will. It will happen earlier than you think, and it might not even take an injury. It probably will, but there's still a world here where Ryan Flournoy beats out these guys and maybe lands as the wide receiver 4 in some 4 wide receiver sets early, then starts to turn into 3 wide receiver sets. Then Brandon Cooks starts to lose some speed. I don't know, just something. He has everything you want in a wide receiver. He has everything you want in a wide receiver. Literally everything you want, and he's doing it. He's going to break out, guys. So, hey, I've got the touchdown clip. Let's go ahead and run it. And it's not, the greatest touchdown in the world, but it's still awesome. Ryan Flournoy, touchdown pass from Trey Lance.
2nd and goal. Looking in. So,
I mean, it's just like, I think my favorite thing about this play, also, does he not just look incredible in the 18? Like, how do you look at a wide receiver from the Dallas Cowboys wearing number 18 and not think that they're going to break out? But look, like, this is a established
looking in zone
with the quarterback type throw. Like, do you understand that? The ball is snapped. Trey Lance basically throws it immediately. And Ryan Flournoy tracks it down, sliding in the back of the end zone, catching it while falling. It's just incredible. It's just incredible. Ryan Flournoy, ladies and gentlemen, the ultimate sleeper, the sleeper of sleeper. Let's go. Donald, this can't happen. They're both in the NFC. But maybe an NFC championship. Although I like your enthusiasm. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe to both Player Profiler and the Player Profiler news channel. Tomorrow, we'll be back with some preseason losers. Take a look at some players that might be getting cut as we're nearing the roster deadline. And then Wednesday, I believe it's tomorrow, actually. So then Wednesday, we'll talk about the players that were cut. So we've got a good week lined up. And then on Thursday, we've got Alan Seslowski hopping on the show. So we've got a good week lined up on Wake and Take. Go ahead and hit that bell. Get ready for it, guys. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe. Have a magnificent Monday and a wonderful rest of your week. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.